Hey, Frank speaking on Vayelech. Quick leave. Everybody doing all right tonight? Unfortunately, I hate to do it this way, but my intro is morbid. And the reason why is because I'm going to ask you, and I want you to think about this. What if you knew that today was the last day of your life? What would you do with it? As Roxanne so beautifully started us off with, tonight's Torah portion, or this week's Torah portion, is Vayelech, and it means, and he went. So we're going to normally this portion is one of those, could be a double portions, because I don't know if you saw it on there, but it said Nitzraim is usually on I think it's like leap years, they'll read the two of them together, but this year is not one of those, and so it's just simply 30 short verses. But normally you read this between, of course, Yom Teruah, or what is this evening. Does anybody know what Shabbat this is this evening? What the calendar states? It's called Shabbat Shavua. Shabbat Shavua. Do anybody possibly know what that word comes from? It's the same root as what? Teshuvah. Very good. You've been going to Bible class, haven't you? You've been going to Hebrew? That's good. Very, very good. So we're going to talk about this, though, in a bit. We're going to talk about the Shabbat in a bit. This is the shortest Torah portion. It's only 30 short verses. Doesn't mean that my teaching is going to be short, though. I'm totally kidding. So it is the shortest portion, but it does contain some pretty major themes. I mean, obviously, Moshe being told that today is the day that you will be gathered to your people. It's very heavy, right? So, I mean, he's been the leader of Israel, of course, for the last 40 years, almost 40 years through the time of his passing. And it has lots of really important themes. We talk about things like leadership transition, covenantal responsibility, and of course, as again, Roxanne beautifully read, the writing of the Torah. This is his final words. So if you want to open up, of course, we're going to be in Deuteronomy 31. We could end up reading the whole 30 verses, but that's not necessarily that fun. Let's hop around, right? Let's go ahead and take us on a journey. So this is a part of his farewell speech. And we start off in verse 2, and if you would like to, of course, turn to Deuteronomy 31, verse 2. And he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I am no longer able to go out, and I am no longer able to come in. How many times do you think we've heard that in the Torah? A lot, right? It's all about going out and coming in. Matter of fact, the song that we just sang in Hebrew is Habracha, the blessing, and actually it talks about, may his favor be upon you. And he talks about when you go in and when you come out. All right, so we're using the Bible. The entire song was written, by the way, with just verses in the Bible. It's an absolutely beautiful song. And if you want to hear the entire Hebrew version, which I highly recommend, Joshua Aaron has an extraordinarily good version. I love that version. So this is entirely throughout the Torah. This is the end of his leadership and his emotional preparation for his own death. So, how do you think he felt? How do you think he felt when the Lord said, this will be the day that you're gathered to your people? Do we have any possible idea in the Bible? Does it speak about that whatsoever? Well, it kind of sort of does. And I would recommend that we turn to Psalm 90. Would you agree or understand that this is probably the only psalm that was written by Moses? So let's go ahead and read it together. Let's turn to Psalm 90. It's a little bit long, about, 17 verses, but we'll work through it. So we're going to start in verse 1 of Psalm 90. It says, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. And again, think about maybe this was his heart, this was how he felt while he was experiencing the understanding that, he has to pass the baton and he's going to end up being gathered to his people and meeting the Lord face to face. And so he says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn man back into dust and say, return, O children of men. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it passes by. Or as a watch in the night, You have swept them away like a flood. They fall asleep. In the morning, they are like grass which sprouts anew. In the morning, it flourishes and sprouts anew. Toward evening, it fades and withers away. For we have been consumed by your anger, and by your wrath we have been dismayed. You have placed our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days have declined in your fury, and we have finished our years like a sigh. As for the days of our life, they contain 70 years, or if due to strength, 80 years. Yet their pride is but labor and sorrow, for soon it is gone, and we fly away. Who understands the power of your anger and your fury according to the fear that is due you? So teach us to number our days, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. Do return, O Lord, how long will it be? And be sorry for your servants. Oh, sanctify us in the morning with your loving kindness, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad according to the days you have afflicted us and the years we have seen evil. Let your work appear to your servants and your majesty to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and confirm for us the work of our hands. Yes, confirm the work of our hands. It's absolutely beautiful. It's probably, of course, the oldest psalm in terms of its composition. You know, because Moses lived centuries before King David. And of course, David, we all know, he wrote most of the Psalms, right? So here's some of the themes that are in that psalm. Human frailty, God's eternal nature, the brevity of life. These are the wilderness generation's experiences under Moses' leadership. That's okay, it gets better. And then it gets worse again. It's kind of a roller coaster of a scenario that happens during this Torah portion. Joshua is now going to be appointed as the leader. So if you were to continue on, this is the next part. Moses publicly passes the mantle of leadership to Joshua, or in Hebrew, Yehoshua. Similar to the name Yeshua. It'd be like saying like Joshua and Josh. That's what it would be like. So Yehoshua, Joshua, and Yeshua are both leaders into the promised land. Joshua leads us into the actual land of Israel. Jesus leads us into the eternal heavenly promised land. That is a study on its own. If you want to study something that's pretty profound, study Joshua compared to Yeshua. It is pretty profound and pretty eye-opening. The Lord tells Joshua in verse 6 of Deuteronomy 31, be strong and courageous. You would know this as being hazach v'hazech. Be strong and courageous. These words become a rallying cry and are repeated multiple times in the Tanakh, which is the Hebrew Old Testament. By the way, I don't like the word Old Testament. I hate that word. I don't hate the Old Testament, don't get me wrong. But I hate the word old. Why? Yes, I agree with Ryan completely. It should be called the First Testament, not the Old Testament. And the reason why I believe so is because old indicates I'm going to throw it away. It's antiquated. It's an iniquity. It's not ever, it's not important anymore, right? I mean, we've all had these conversations with our mainstream Christian brothers and sisters. Now, don't get me wrong. We love our mainstream brothers and sisters of Christianity. However, they just kind of don't look at the Old Testament. It's old. Yeshua did away with that. Oh, who's Yeshua? Oh, yeah, Jesus. So I kind of like the name First Testament instead. So if you hear me saying First Testament, then that's sort of what I've adopted personally. I'm not saying that you have to, but that's what I've adopted personally. As we move on, in Deuteronomy 31:9, it says that Moses wrote down this Torah. So this is the first reference in the entire Torah, all of the 5 books, of Moses writing down the entire Torah. It's the first time. Then what does he do? He gives it to the Levi'im, the Levites, and he has them place it next to the ark, in the Ark of the Covenant. Okay? This brings us to a new mitzvah. This mitzvah is known as the mitzvah of Hachel. Anybody heard of that? Hachel? The mitzvah of Hachel? Roxanne, again, it's like everything's connected tonight, right? It's the reading of the Torah every year. Now, this said the year of release. What version did you get that from, Roxanne? Was that like a New Standard, King James or something like that?
English translation?
Yeah.
New King James.
Okay. Yeah, so in the Hebrew, in the Tanakh, it is known as the Shemitah. Shemitah. Anybody know what the Shemitah is? Not Roxanne, you're not allowed. What's the Shemitah? Yes, happens every 7 years. Happens every 7 years. So, every single body, and I mean everybody, this mitzvah or commandment was that every single soul went to the temple during a Shemitah year to listen to the Torah. That's everybody. That's including those that are attached to the Israelites. All right, in Hebrew, the word is ger. It's ger, right? Those are the foreigners that have attached themselves to the Israelites. And that's a whole other conversation. But that is one of the few mitzvot that actually says the entire nation's to go. So if you feel like, because Sukkot is coming up, if you feel like reading the Torah during Sukkot, you don't have to read the whole thing. A lot of people will end up usually reading most of the book of Deuteronomy. But if you've been keeping up with the Torah portions, you've been reading the book of Deuteronomy anyway, right? But if you feel like you want to read the book of Deuteronomy again during Sukkot, you've got time. There's 8 full days to do it. Prediction of future rebellion. Let's go ahead and turn back to, and I've lost my spot, so bear with me. I thought I kept my little thingy in there, and I didn't. So we're going to go back to Deuteronomy 31. This time we're going to read in verses 14 to 18. Here comes that dip again. Here comes the uphill climb, or whatever way you want to see it, on this roller coaster of a ride that's happening on Moses' final day. Starting in verse 14. Then the Lord will say to Moses, and this is wild that this is here, honestly. And I'm going to let it just kind of let you think about it, pontificate, if you will, on it, and see how you feel about it, because it definitely strikes me as very odd that it's in here. But it says, and then the Lord says to Moses, behold, the time for you to die is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting so that I may commission him. So far, so good, right? So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. The Lord appeared in the tent in a pillar of cloud, and the pillar of cloud stood at the doorway of the tent. The Lord said to Moses, behold, you are about to lie down with your fathers, and this people will arise and play the harlot with the strange gods of the land, into the midst of which they are going, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger will be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them and hide my face from them, and they will be consumed. And many evils and troubles will come upon them, so that they will say in that day, is it not because our God among us that these evils have come upon us? But surely I will hide my face in that day of all the evil which they will do, for they will turn to other gods. Wow. What a prediction. And of course, it's from God, and God knows exactly what he's talking about. So you're sitting there going, all right, let's go, Joshua. I'm old in years. I can't go in and come out anymore. We're going to go ahead and go up here and meet the Lord, and the Lord is going to probably commission you, right? I could just imagine the conversation. And then they're standing there, and God lays this on them, right? Personally, my human thought would be, but God, we were just here to do a commissioning. You're telling me that everybody's going to fall away from you? Is that going to happen like during my time? Wow. But let's think about why this is said, right? This prophecy is very sombering. It foretells that Israel will eventually stray. And of course, with Pastor talking all throughout the previous 4 books, we know that ever since they left Egypt, they've done nothing but complain and essentially fall away. I mean, look at the golden calf. But they're going to do it again. So therefore, though, we have to be able to see that it has to get bad, and it has to get really bad before we really understand what good is. So this brings up the concept of God's covenant with his people and the importance of teshuvah, repentance. Okay? And I'm not going to steal Daniel's thunder. Daniel's going to be teaching on this mitzvah, or technically on this Torah portion next week. So I promise I'm not going to dance all over it. Although I have to, because they literally go together. So the next one, the next parsha, or the next portion is called Ha'azinu, which means listen. Don't worry, pretend like I didn't say that. Daniel will tell you that, and give him your profound looks and everything like that next week. But this leads into the Song of Moses, which is the entire next parsha, okay? But I still am going to talk about it a little bit, Daniel, so bear with me. So, did this portion actually include Gentiles? Anybody know? Yeah, you wouldn't be correct in not saying that, right? Here we go. Let's go to Hosea chapter 2. We're going to go to Hosea chapter 2. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm so used to my other Bible that I got to dig through it and find it myself here in this one. Because mine is just, I've gotten used to it. Anyway, that's why I have it written down. Yeah, I do have it written down. Okay, so if you're in Hosea chapter 2, we're going to read verses 21 through 23. I'll give you guys just a moment or two to get there. I hear some clicking with pages. All right. When that day comes, I will answer, says Adonai. I will answer the sky, and it will answer the earth. The earth will answer the corn, wine, and oil. And they will answer Yisrael. God will sow. That's what that means. Yisrael means God will sow. I will sow her for me in the land. I will have pity on Lo Ruchama, which means unpitied. And I will say to Lo Ami, not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. Fast forward to 1 Peter 2, verse 10. I'll give you a moment to go there. This is profound. 1 Peter 2, verse 10, please. I'll start reading. For you once were not a people. Now, of course, Peter wrote in, New Testament, of course, being in Greek. The Hebrew would be lo ami. You were not a people, or not my people. But now you are the people of God. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So who do you think he's talking about? Gentiles. Those that are yoked up now with Israel because of Yeshua. That's who he's talking about. Isn't that amazing? I always love it when we see stuff like that in the Bible, when you can just flip through the Tanakh and then New Testament and you just see all the connections. God commands Moses to write down what is known as the Shirat Ha'azinu. This is the song of Ha'azinu as a witness for the people. This poetic section does come in Daniel's parsha, which is the next parsha, or portion, but it is foreshadowed here. So it's kind of cool that Daniel and I get to pair Torah portions together. It's kind of fun over the next couple of weeks. Quick quiz. Do you know where the Song of Moses is spoken about again in the Bible? The Song of Moses is spoken about again in the Bible. Do we know where? Okay, very good. Revelation 15 to be exact. Let's turn there. Revelation 15. 1 through 3. Hey, I know where that's at. I can turn there. Oh, these pages. So tiny. All right, we're going to start in verse 1 of Revelation 15. Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels who had 7 plagues, which are the last, because in them the wrath of God is finished. And I saw something like a sea of glass. Tell them I said hi, by the way. And I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of God. And they sang the song of Moses, the bondservant of God, and the song of the Lamb. Why is it there? Right? Why there? Why in Revelation? Almost at the end of all things. Why in Revelation? Well, if you were to go back to chapter 14, this would be the culmination of everything that happened with the 7 shofars the pastor talked about this past Sunday. So we're between the time of the shofar judgments, or the 7 shofars, and now the bowls are about to happen. And that's what chapter 15 and 16 and 17 essentially encompass, okay? So guess what? I kind of had a revelation of my own. I figured, if we're looking at the timeline of Revelation, maybe those that are singing this song in heaven, why are they singing it in heaven? Or why are they singing it if they're with the Lord? Well, here's why we can sing it then and even now. Because if we are constantly surrendering and turning back to God, we are living out the singing of Moses' song in our own lives. So this actually does happen between the 7 shofars and the 7 bowls of judgment. I think, this is just my quick little interpretation of this, is that maybe we're singing this while we're at the wedding feast of the Lamb. Maybe that's when we're singing this. Moving on. Torah is a living witness. So the Torah is not just a book of laws, but it's a spiritual and moral compass that endures through generations. It is to be read, remembered, and taught continuously, not just preserved. Why did we just recite the Shema? Because we are supposed to learn it and then teach it. When we go out, when we come in, when we rise, when we sleep, when we're walking on the road, that's when we're supposed to actually teach Torah. So, overall, what are some of the themes of Vayelech this week? There's 3 of them that I picked up. It's all about transitions. So number 1, we go from Moses to Joshua, right? That transition of leadership. We go from desert wandering to entering the land. That's number 2. And then number 3, we go from the past into the future. This portion absolutely resonates during this period of time, which is actually known as the High Holy Season. This is a time of personal and communal reflection. What do I mean by that? Well, if you didn't know this, you're in the High Holy Season right now. This happened at the first day of this month, which was, of course, Yom Teruah, right? And it continues until the 10th day of the month, which is Yom Kippur. These are often referred to as those high holy days. In Hebrew, Yamim Norim. Yamim Norim, the days of awe. Technically, right now, if you didn't know this, we're actually between day 4 and day 5. So we're halfway there already. Like Yom Kippur is literally this coming Thursday. So, what do we do during these days as a believer in Yeshua? Well, number 1, as we always need to do, pray. I always laughed about that, by the way. You ever notice that growing up, people were like, oh, I'll pray for you? It sounds good, I'll pray for you. Pray now. Pray right for them right then and there. All right? Knock them off their socks and pray for them right there, right then and there. So that's the first thing that we should do, right? Well, I guess we can pray. What do you mean, I guess we can pray? We should pray first. The next thing, do self-reflection or self-analysis. Where do you find yourself in relationships to others? This is a call to action during this time. I learned last year, while I was still studying the same Torah portion, is that it's critical at these times. And what they do over in Israel is they do this personal reflection and figure out what relationships are not the relationships that they want them to be. And they try to make teshuvah, reconciliation with those individuals. I give you that same charge, myself included. Think about individuals that are in your life, or maybe not in your life now because you guys have been fighting, and why don't you consider calling them and reconciling that relationship? I mean, whether whatever you think about this, I mean, Charlie Kirk's widow stood on that pulpit in front of all those people and said, I forgive you. I mean, whatever the case may be of whatever happens with the courts and all that with that guy, and who cares? They have the strength to be able to say something like that. And then I don't know if you know this, but something I found kind of interesting was Tim Allen. I didn't know that Tim Allen, right? Home Improvement, Tim Allen, that's like 3 shows now. He actually went on to Twitter and he actually forgave after 60 years of having a grudge against the drunk driver that killed his father. He went on to Twitter and he forgave him. That was his public space. Do you know that the song by Matthew West called Forgiveness, there's a verse in that it says, when you forgive, the person you're really forgiving is you. Wow. So let's think about that during these high holy days, right? Or what's considered the days of all. Let's think about those relationships that we can patch up. Because Yeshua himself says in Matthew chapter 5, what does he say? Do not bring me that sacrifice. Go first, leave your sacrifice at the altar, go reconcile with your brother, and then I'll accept your sacrifice. It's the second commandment. Love others as yourself. We can't do that if we're thumbing our nose up at somebody else. And it doesn't mean that you have to come onto their side. It doesn't mean you have to accept them for whatever they said to you and yada, yada. Forgive them. Forgive them. Forgive them. That's the first way of repairing a relationship. And you know what? It could be an agree to disagree, and maybe you just don't ever talk truly like that ever again. But you know what? There's a release after that. You've now officially said, we're done. We're done with whatever that was, and I don't care if you don't like me the rest of your life. It's cool. But at least now we know we're done. We're done with that, and we move on. The last thing that we can do, of course, is teshuvah, repentance, during these times as well. So, what is the connection to teshuvah then? Well, we often read, of course, this portion between Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur. So, Vayelech aligns with the themes of introspection, return, leadership, and legacy. So Moses actually models humility and faith in the future even as he steps away. Wow, that's incredible. So we're going to actually look at this week's Haftarah. Does anyone know what a Haftarah means? Right. It also can mean conclusion, right? Just for example, if you recall, when Yeshua spoke at the synagogue in Nazareth, he likely had the Torah portion. Well, I'm sorry, he had probably the. Well, I mean, of course, he's speaking about himself. I mean, let's be honest. But he unrolled the scroll, and he was at Isaiah 61, right? And he was talking about what the Savior will do. Rolls it back up, gives it back to the Shamash, and then the Shamash likely puts it back into the Aron. Yeah, gives it back to Aron. And anyway, all eyes are on him at the synagogue. And you guys know how a synagogue is set up, right? You all know how a synagogue is set up? So you got the bema seat. It's not this. This is the Greek and Roman way of doing things, where the orator's here and the audience is there. No, if I was actually doing a synagogue, I would be right here, walking up and down in the center of you, and you'd be circled around me. This is how I would talk to you. The bema seat's right here, and I would be talking like this, because you all want to be able to hear me. I don't have a microphone in the first century, right? So I have to be able to be heard. So he goes and he sits back down, and then everybody says, like with their eyes, what's he going to say? Like, what's his drash on this? What is he going to teach us? And he just simply says what? Today, this prophecy is fulfilled. And then they wanted to throw him off a cliff. However, let's look at this week's Haftarah. This is going to be in Hosea as well. So please turn to Hosea chapter 14. That would be the Haftarah that's associated with this. I found this to actually be very, very important to our discussion here on this Torah portion. I still can't seem to. Well, there's the majors. There's the wisdom. This is why I have it written down in my notes. Okay. All right, so it starts in, I want to say, verse 1. 14, verse 1. And this is talking about this particular Shabbat, right? The Shabbat, the Shavua. That's what we're actually finishing up with. So take these words with you and return to the Lord. Say to him, take away all guilt and receive us graciously, so that we may present the fruit of our lips. Assyria will not save us. We will not ride on horses, nor we will say again, our God, to the work of our hands. For you and the orphan finds mercy. I will heal their apostasy. I will love them freely, because my anger has turned away from them. I will be like the dew to Israel, and he will blossom like the lily, and he will take root like the cedars of Lebanon. His shoots will sprout. His majesty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like the cedars of Lebanon. Those who live in his shadow will again raise grain, and they will blossom like the vine. His fame will be like the wine of Lebanon. And we're going to hop down quickly to verse 9. Whoever is wise, let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the righteous will walk in them, but wrongdoers will stumble in them. I'm going to let Daniel have the final word on the next Torah portion, okay? But if you'll be so gracious to please allow me to set up next week with a little bit about songs and music. Is that okay? I was a DJ for like 14 years. I love songs and music. So, number one, Moses' song has not been forgotten, nor will it be forgotten. In his people it has been passed ledor. That means generation to generation. You learned this in Israel. You learned Moses' song in Israel. We are walking keli, or if you're looking at it plural, it'd be kelim. Does anyone know what that means? No, Roxanne, you're not allowed to answer. What's keli? A vessel. We are vessels, and he has given us a voice, and we can use that voice to sing to him. Y'all did wonderful tonight. That's because I wasn't singing with you. I'm just teasing. It's because you couldn't really hear me singing. Pastor knows. He tells me all the time, I'm raising a beautiful voice to the Lord. I speak much better than I sing. But of all the times that the warriors of Israel sung to the Lord, they were going out to battle. Pastor again talked about this during this previous Sunday with reference about singing and blowing the shofar. This is what brings the victory. This is how we perform spiritual warfare. The enemy really doesn't like this. So this is what we're going to close with. We're going to move to one last minor prophet. And by the way, they're only called minor because their books are small, by the way. It's not like because there's major prophets and minor. Anyway, just because they have a small book. But let's go ahead and go to Zephaniah. We're going to go to Zephaniah chapter 1. And then we're going to go to Zephaniah chapter 3. So if you want to find them both and maybe put a finger there in chapter 3. And then we're going to flip over to that to finish up. Again, this is why I write it down, because I'm trying to find it sometimes. I don't have the little tabs on this guy. All right, so chapter 1, verse 14 to 16. The great day of Adonai is near and coming very quickly. Hear the sound of the day of Adonai. When it is here, even a warrior will cry bitterly. That day is a day of fury, a day of trouble and distress, a day of waste and desolation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick fog, a day of the shofar and battle cry against the fortified cities and against the high towers on the city walls. Let's go to Zephaniah 3, verse 17. Give me a moment. Starting in verse 17, The remnant of Israel will not do wrong, nor will they speak lies. Nor will there be found in their mouths a tongue given over to deceit. For they will be able to graze and lie down with no one to disturb them. Sing, daughter of Zion. Shout, Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all your heart, daughter of Jerusalem. Adonai has removed the judgments against you. He has expelled your enemy. The king of Israel, Adonai, is right there with you. You no longer need to fear that anything bad will happen. On that day it will be said to Jerusalem, do not fear Zion. Do not let your hands droop down. The Lord your God is right there with you as a mighty Savior. He will rejoice over you and be glad. He will be silent in his love. He will shout over you with joy. If you don't mind, no, I won't sing it. But just like the song that Pastor had played over the speakers, I would like to actually do the Aaronic blessing over you, if I may. Is that okay? This is how you would say it in Hebrew. Yivarechacha Adonai ve'ishmerecha. Ya'ir Adonai panav elecha. V'yonechacha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. V'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom.